Good morning and welcome to Life at 50 Plus, Planning for Your Health, Wealth, and Happiness. I'm Subha Sati, an AARP Volunteer Community Ambassador with the AARP State Office in Virginia. For more than 60 years, AARP has been a wise friend and fierce defender, helping individuals to ensure that their money, health, and happiness lives as long as they do. AARP has earned a reputation as a wise friend and fierce defender through trusted information, tools, and advocacy designed to protect the health and financial security of older Americans and empower them to choose how they live as they age. And that's why we're thrilled to bring you programs like this one today. By promising to act as a wise friend and fierce defender, AARP is helping people who are 50 plus and their families feel confident, in control, and secure in their age, as they age, As a wise friend in your corner, AARP helps you save money for today and for the future, protect yourself and your loved ones from fraud, get healthy and stay healthy, care for loved ones, make connections, plan a trip, learn new technologies, attend a class, and have fun. And as a fierce defender of people 50 plus, AARP is leading the way in the fight. We're also here to support family caregivers and help them care for themselves and their loved ones. And we're fighting to protect Medicare and Social Security for today's beneficiaries and future generations. We are thrilled today to team up with Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at George Mason University to bring you the Life at 50 Plus Today's program, which is designed to give you trusted information and tools to protect your health and financial security so that you can choose how to live as you age. We will have 4 workshops and you can choose to attend 2 of them. And the workshops are the 6 Pillars of Brain Health, Medicare 101, Understanding Your Benefits, Making Sense of Caregiving Costs, that's CENTS, Social Security, Understanding Your Benefits. We are recording all of the workshops, and we'll send a link of the recordings to you next week. Before we get to our workshops, I'd like to turn the program over to our wonderful community partner in this adventure, OLLI Mason. We've had a great relationship with OLLI Mason for many years. And I'm thrilled that we're back on campus today to bring you Life at 50 Plus. Ms. Jennifer DeSano serves as the Executive Director of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at George Mason University, OLLI Mason, a nonprofit membership-driven organization with 3 regional campuses in Northern Virginia, offering 600 educational courses per year to over 1,200 members, serving retired individuals aged 55 or better. So Jennifer, please come up to the podium and welcome.
Thank you, Subha. Welcome, welcome. We're going to be talking about living well and learning every day in retirement. And living well and learning every day is actually our motto here at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. And we have so much that is happening in retirement. And I'm going to talk to you about that right now. So retirement, how many of you are retired? Can you raise your hands? Okay, very good, very good. So what does that mean? Retirement is that time of your life when you no longer have to commute to a job and you don't have to deal with office politics, and you can relax and explore your interests and go play golf or travel and enjoy the sunset, right? So, there goes my slide. Let me just advance. There's the sunset. This is the ideal retirement. This is what you were working so hard all those years to enjoy. And isn't this what you're going through right now? Is this your reality? If you really live this way, we all need to know what your secret is. We really do. So retirement has its benefits, absolutely. And that's many people adjust very well to retirement, but others experience kind of a honeymoon phase, and that lasts for about maybe a year or a week, depending on who you are and what your needs are. And so it's a time when you can either be very relieved and happy, or you can start to find yourself sort of in a rut. And you kind of start to experience what I call the retirement blues. You're finished all those household projects. You've played enough golf. Your spouse wonders how long you're going to be hanging around the house. You might indulge in too much food or television or internet or playing on the computer games. Some folks become withdrawn and they become lonely. And others get cranky and hyper focus on things, either relying on them too much or criticizing them or what have you. So it's not always a cup of tea. It's not always this. So what do you do? How do you guard against the retirement blues? And how do you get even more out of your retirement if it's not going as well as you thought it was going to be? So much of what I'm going to share with you today are observations and lessons learned from working here at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and also some research on healthy aging and a variety of studies from agencies that serve older adults. But some of this is really common sense and relates to positivity and healthy habits, emotional and physical health, and socialization. So let's get started. I'm not able to advance, but that's okay. I can push the button. Okay, well, here you go. Okay.
Focus. Okay, so now try it.
Now try it? Okay. Okay, here we go. Reflection and purpose. Okay. So what happens when you retire? There are a few things that you leave behind when you leave your job that were sort of helped you to identify with who you are, what you did, be able to answer those kinds of questions. You no longer have the ability to say, this is what I do, and feel like this is what I am. But you lose authority if you happen to be in charge of things or people or responsibilities that you had. You lose some intellectual challenges because at work, in many cases, you're faced with a problem that you have to solve every day, whatever that problem might be. And so you no longer have to worry about those kinds of things. You lose your social networks and some of which you had for many decades. And of course, income growth and retention changes when you are no longer working. So as you enter the retirement phase of life, you have the freedom to explore new interests and pursuits, but and you've entered a new stage of life, and you have the opportunity to replace some of the things you've lost with something you find meaningful. By pursuing meaningful activities and interactions, that can make you healthier and happier. So here's some ideas. You can volunteer at a hospital. You can read to kids who are ill. You can volunteer at your local library. They need your help to work with book sales and help raising money for programs to help the community. You can take part in projects that are at your house of worship. You can tutor kids who need help in school. There's a program called Grand Involved that matches senior volunteers with elementary school kids for after school enrichment. Grand Involved you can find online. Just Google Grand Involved. You can care for animals in a shelter. I don't know if how many of you know about the beagles that have been brought into the Fairfax County that really need a home. I have to put a little caveat on that. I recently adopted a puppy, and it is a lot of work. So be ready for that. And it definitely will change your life, but very joyful at the same time. You can volunteer for Volunteer Fairfax. If you know about Volunteer Fairfax, you can Google that, and they have ways of matching you with volunteer opportunities and organizations. They'll send you out to help nonprofits and help at events, sort of like an AARP does. You can volunteer at AARP as well. Long-term, this can help your mind and your body. So, University of Pennsylvania researchers interested in retirement studies wrote an article in 2016 titled "The Retirement Problem: What Will You Do with All That Time?" The article suggested individuals self-reflect and take a step into healthy retirement and ask themselves some deep questions. Am I living the life I want to live? What is most important to me? What is most important for me to do now that I'm retired? Research indicates that those who have the happiest retirement tend to answer the question with giving back. This is what I'm going to do with myself. I'm going to give back time and discover a sense of purpose. While giving back can mean boosting charitable contributions, the growing number of retirees, it becomes significant volunteer opportunities and even an encore career, doing something maybe not in line with the career that you once had, but doing something even work-wise that is explore. Like maybe you always wanted to toss pizzas, get a pizza parlor going or something. Just a random idea. Stuart Friedman, he's a practice professor of management at the Wharton School. He's quoted as saying, "The most successful people in retirement look to use their talents and passions to make a contribution. And these people may be interested in exploring some of the interests that they have as lay people to follow, which like things they were interested in, like history and music, economics, memoir writing. We actually have a memoir writing here group at OLLI, wine tasting. Of course, OLLI, Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, offers all of those types of options. And I'll be talking about OLLI later on in the talk, but really, as long as you're seeking out these kinds of opportunities, no matter what lifelong learning program or no matter what resource that you have, or if you're simply going over to the university, you can take university classes for free if you're interested in sitting in on those types of audits, and really explore your interests now that you have the time to do so. Okay, we are living, thinking, emotional beings that react to every stimuli and recognize our surroundings. We can even outsmart ourselves. According to the Journal of American Medical Association, you are what you think you are when it comes to aging. Seniors who think of aging as a positive, natural progression of life and consider age as a means of wisdom and overall satisfaction, studies show those individuals are more than 40% more likely to recover from a disability than those who see aging as synonymous with helplessness and uselessness. So you want to get your mind thinking about, this is really a good natural thing that is happening, and I'm happy to be at this stage of life. This is where I want to be, and everything is good. And then if you have that positive outlook, it will translate into a physical well-being. In fact, a recent article published in the scientific journal, The Gerontologist, found that attitude towards one's own aging among older adults has implications for cancer prevention. The study found individuals with cancer reported slightly more pessimistic attitudes towards one's own aging than individuals without cancer. In fact, the Center for Disease Control has taken this research and implemented a national campaign encouraging awareness of attitudes to help with prevention of cancer. In studies over 4 decades, Harvard psychologist professor Ellen Langer showed that mental health attitude can reverse the effects of aging and improve physical health. You may remember Ellen Langer's work in the 1970s, and she did an experiment called the counterclockwise study. And she and her research team placed 8 men in their late 70s in a monastery in New Hampshire, converted and transformed the surroundings all into 1959 when those individuals were in their prime. Furniture, decor, newspapers, sports on the TV, music, also TV programs and movies. Every cultural reference dated from the period of 1959. And there were no mirrors, only photos of men in their 20s were hung on the wall. They spoke and acted as though they had traveled back in time and gotten younger, just because of the environment that they were placed in. And it's a fascinating study. So having a positive attitude about aging overall will likely help you to stay healthier and potentially help to avoid some serious illness. In order to have a positive attitude, you really need to focus on emotional health And we'll get into that in the next slide. But I'd like you to watch this great video from Penn State University, my alma mater, TED Talk called "What If Age is Just a State of Mind" by social scientist writer Bruce Grierson, which reinforces this theory that you are what you think you are and how that can help you flourish in life. And so let's see. Do we have that here? Let me see. I'll go ahead. I got it, Mike. Thank you. We'll watch this for a few minutes.
How old do you think this woman is? This is Olga Kotelko, pride of West Vancouver, Canada, flying over the long jump pit at UCLA. So Olga is 91 here. And you may be thinking, what's in the water up there in West Vancouver? Or maybe what's in the genes of Olga Kotelko? Now, Olga, I should tell you, took up track and field at age 77, so here she's just rounding into form. She competed in 11 events, including high jump and 100-meter dash. And she was well on her way at this point to becoming the most decorated masters athlete ever, with more than 50 world records in her age categories. And she and I were well into a pretty intensive investigation of what makes Olga run. And by run, I mean tick. Run like a watch. Run like a watch that's running more slowly than other watches. Now, Olga visited a lot of labs for this project, and she had a lot of testing done on herself. And by every measure, she came out at least 30 years younger than her chronological age. This is a person who, at 90, reported that she felt like a 50-year-old, and she moved like a 40-year-old. So what was going on? If you ask scientists what slows aging, you'll get answers like eating better and eating less, managing chronic stress, getting enough sleep, not sitting too much, exercise. Olga ticked all those boxes, but then so do a lot of people, and they're not Olga. So what was her X factor? Longevity genes? Her family history says no. Well, as Olga and I traveled together and I got to know her better and better, a sort of strange theory started to push to the front of my mind. What if Olga's not becoming a wizened little old lady at the expected rate because she has decided not to? You know, we'd been paying very close attention to her from the neck down, but what if the real story, or an appreciable part of the story, was happening from the neck up? Now, I call Olga a warrior mensch because she was almost two people in one. Off the track, she was your grandmother. You know, thrilled to see you. Can you stay for a visit? And your timing's excellent because I just made way too much pie. You know, these were sweet traits, and they won her a lot of friends, which actually turns out to be a great thing health-wise. On the track, she flipped a switch. She kind of got the red mist going, you know, and nothing existed for her except the result she was visualizing, a new world record. Olga didn't doubt for a minute that she could compete at an elite level well into her 90s and beyond. Why not, she'd say. And then you'd try to explain, well, because Olga, you know, after a certain point, shrinking muscle mass and thinning bones, human limits, yada, yada, yada. She didn't care about any of that stuff. She thought limits were illusory. Now, when that's the lens that you're looking at the world through, something happens. Turns out that the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves matter a whole lot. And even the way we think about aging itself matters. So Becca Levy here, a psychologist at Yale, analyzed data from hundreds of American seniors collected over 25 years. And what she found was that the ones who had kind of drunk the cultural Kool-Aid, you know, who believed the messages coming out of their TV sets that youth reigns supreme, and beyond 75 or so, we all fade into doddering irrelevance, those people tended to become weak and frail at a faster than average rate. Whereas those who had a more positive view of aging, you know, who thought that growing old was nothing to fear and actually had a lot of upside, those people lived 7.5 years longer on average than the ones who kind of rued their lost youth. Now, over at Harvard, psychologist Ellen Langer has spent almost 4 decades studying something called youth primes. And a youth prime is anything that makes you feel young. And what Ellen found is that people exposed to youth primes, and hang with me on this because it's mind-blowing, people exposed to youth primes scored better on a whole host of physiological measures. Their vision improved, their hearing improved, things like grip strength and working memory improved. The upshot is, if you really believe, if you find a way to believe that you're stronger and faster and sharper and nimbler than your birth certificate says you should be, if you really find a way to buy into that, your body recalibrates. Ellen's work always makes me think of Olga, because what Olga did so ingeniously was she put herself in the middle of a whole lot of youth primes every time she stepped on the track. Now, I found out firsthand how this works 3.5 years ago. That's when Olga inspired me to kind of put down my pen and go deeper into the reporting. So I Googled up the entry form for one of her meets, the World Masters Championships in Sacramento. I found my category, males 45 to 49. Found an event, 10,000 meters, why not? Took a deep breath, pushed send on my application. 6 weeks later, stepped into the movie Cocoon. There are thousands of competitors at these meets. It's like a world of quasi-Olgas that I hadn't really known about. And, you know, from here down, they're all a decade or more younger than they look. At one point, I was watching an Australian woman in the 800 meters, and I found myself staring at her bum, and I later learned she was almost 70. In this environment, all the cues scream, we're not old. None of us are old. We can't be old, because look at what we're doing. Running, jumping, throwing things, school kid stuff, you know, chasing prizes again. That's pretty intoxicating. When a whole community lifts each other up like that, it's kind of awesomely rejuvenating even to watch. Faith, belief, purpose, these are mighty forces. They're hard to measure, which I think may be why they don't get the attention of the other health metrics, but don't underestimate them. Everybody likes to talk about lucky genes, but in terms of its power to shape your life, what's in your heart blows away what's in your genome. And this was my big takeaway from all of this. When I think of my pal Olga Kotelko, I don't think of, you know what I'm going to tell you about is how I did in my race, which I forgot to tell you. I came almost dead last in my race in Sacramento. But I don't remember the humiliation, and I don't remember the pain of that race. What I remember is Olga reaching up. She was barely 5 feet tall, and clamping a hand on my shoulder and kind of pulling me in and saying, "I am so proud of you." Olga died in June, very suddenly, right at the top of her game. A blood vessel burst in her brain in the middle of the night. And people said, what a tragedy. She could have gone on and on. But Olga wasn't into the idea of super longevity. She was into the idea of super flourishing, just living the life we have. Olga was my youth prime. She James Deaned it out of here at 95, leaving nothing undone and nothing undreamed. And I want to say we should all be so lucky, but luck doesn't belong in this story. Thank you.
That was very good, isn't it? Don't you all want to be Olga? I know I do. I'm going to go sign up for one of those senior Olympics. Oh, goodness. Okay. So lot to take away from that. And I really appreciate you bearing with me. It was a little bit of a long video, but I thought it was relevant and something that was enriching for all of us. So let's talk about emotional health. What does it mean to be emotionally healthy? Being happy all the time, right? No. Being happy all the time is not being true to oneself. It's posturing, and that's not a healthy state of mind. Being emotionally healthy involves a balance of understanding that bad things happen, negative situations and feelings do occur, but instead of being overwhelmed by those feelings, we learn to manage them and maintain a positive outlook. Emotional wellness is to be aware of your emotions and to be true to your feelings. A friend and psychologist colleague of mine, Dr. Beth Cabrera, was the speaker at this event a few years ago. And she does research on well-being and positive psychology. And she explains that the key to well-being is relationships, in her opinion, in her research. And in her book, Beyond Happy, she explains 2 dimensions of well-being: feeling good and doing good. Feeling good is experiencing more positive than negative emotions, and doing good is living your values. Let's talk about some examples of how to remain optimistic, even during setbacks, and I'll use some of Beth's ideas to explain a way forward. How do you remain optimistic even during setbacks? Give me some of your ideas. Do you have any answer to that? How do you remain optimistic if you're experiencing a setback? Anyone want to share? Go ahead.
I think at the same time, when you're wrapped up in those emotions, if you can stop the tape by enumerating or reminding yourself of the things that you're grateful for and that have worked out well for you. When something is going on that's negative and overwhelming, we see everything through that vantage point. And if we stop to think about it, there are still many things that have been very positive.
That's a fantastic answer. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have any advice or when you've had a negative experience, something that helps pull you back or helps you get through it? Okay, well, you know what? We have a lot of examples here, so we'll go through some of them. So remaining optimistic even during setbacks, you can focus on what's right rather than what is wrong with the situation. And this is, thank you so much for your example, because I think a lot of this is grounded in some of what you just said. Seek realistic things for which to be grateful. This is sort of like, remember when we were kids, count your blessings. This is sort of when it goes right back to that whole notion. Develop goals and plans so that you can stay on track when things start to derail. So organize yourself, make your lists, and that helps a lot. Reach out to others for support when you need it. This is very rarely done. Sometimes we just like to deal with things on our own. We don't want to burden anybody with our problems. But as my mother says, sometimes it's easier to carry somebody else's water. So share what's going on with you and your friends and your loved ones. Or if you don't have anyone in your life, there are other resources out there for you. Don't go carrying that water on your own. Have a healthy self-concept and avoid both arrogance and inappropriate self-blame. Don't beat yourself up. You're not the king of the world or the queen of the castle. You're just like everybody else, and ground yourself in that. Take responsibility for your actions rather than blaming others for all of your problems. And have a wide range of coping skills for handling stress and other problems. My husband, for example, he rides his bike 40 miles a day. Now, I wouldn't recommend that, but it does help with his emotional and physical well-being. Find a hobby, a healthy hobby. Woodworking is a great one. Of course, volunteering, as we spoke of before, is also very good. Don't expect perfection. Persevere and don't give up. Be mindful by focusing your attention on the present moment. Don't worry about things you cannot control and imagine things that are not reality. Notice and appreciate the good things and focus on what is going well, as opposed to constantly worrying about potential threats. Call a friend and have some coffee. And we have some others on this slide, but I think I'll move on just for the sake of time. So let's talk about some healthy habits. Golf can be a healthy habit. If it's a positive thing that brings you joy and you want to do it, then that's a healthy habit. You need to find things that are unique to you and your desires, and don't apologize for them. This is what I like to do, and do it. One feature of retirement is that you no longer have to keep a schedule, right? So you can get up when you want, you can go to sleep when you want, you can eat when you want, and you don't need to worry about your figure or what you look like, and no one can tell you what to do, right? It's a totally free environment. Probably not the case. You probably have other people in your life that are part of your daily life where you have to adjust to them. Healthy living is really just a personal choice. Do you care enough about yourself to make the right choices to keep you healthy today and into the future? Schedules are really a wonderful way to stay on track and keep a healthy lifestyle. Making conscientious decisions on diet and exercise can lead to healthier living. One of the main joys of retirement is having time in your hands, of course, and you can do what you want when you want. But researchers have found that retirees are happiest when they plan how they spend their time and make the most of it. And if you manage it well, then that can pay off even if you don't have a lot of time to spare, and it can keep you from being bored, which is another thing to try and avoid. Protecting yourself also from the elements, like, wear sunscreen, that's always important. Get plenty of sleep. And of course, move your body. We all know that moving our body is the best way to safeguard our physical health. And this is especially important as we get older. There are many illnesses that we can help to prevent through exercise. So making sure that you're taking care of your mental and physical well-being is very important. We have a walking group here at OLLI that is really fantastic. It's a fun thing to get involved in if you want to get up and go various places. Sometimes it starts here at this location, but other times they meet up at different locations. We also do hiking and lots of outdoor activities, along with all of the educational programming. We like to also get outside and be together socially. Socialization is really important. We talked about physical health. Socialization is also really important. Relationships are key to longevity, and friends are our best medicine. So you want to make sure you're staving off the loneliness by having those relationships and making sure that you're staying healthy. I want to talk a bit about telomeres. I know I'm watching for the time, or telomeres. How many of you know about telomeres? Have you heard of telomeres? These are chromosomal features which have been studied that if you have longer telomeres, you are going to be aging a little bit better, a little bit slower. So there's a video I want to show you about this that explains it really well. That there's a study published in the Lancet reveals first ever data showing lifestyle changes have the potential to reverse aging on cellular levels. So the telomeres extend because you're doing good things in your life, like lifelong learning programs, like keeping physically healthy and fit. So there's a video here that I want to show you. And Mike, do I just click it? Let me see. Oop. Oh, there it is. So this is really interesting research I'd like you to learn about real quick. So is that coming up?
I'm here with Dr. Dean Ornish, President and founder of the Preventive Medicine Research Institute and clinical professor of medicine at the University.
We're going to get the volume up in here.
So there's a study in the Lancet Oncology. Can you tell me what the study evaluated?
In our study, we looked at telomeres, which are the ends of the chromosomes that control cellular aging. They're often likened to the plastic tips on the ends of our shoelaces that keep the shoelaces from unraveling. The telomeres help to keep our DNA and our chromosomes from unraveling. And as our telomeres get shorter, our lives tend to get shorter, and the incidence of the most common diseases like heart disease and cancer goes up.
What were the specific findings of the study?
We found that the telomeres actually got longer by almost 10% in the group that made these lifestyle changes, whereas they got shorter by about 3% in the control group. And we also found that the more people changed their lifestyle, the longer their telomeres got at any age. And that's a very empowering finding, and also one that helps give us more confidence in the validity of our findings.
What are the lifestyle changes that are the most important to be made in your opinion?
In all of our studies, we used the same intervention. It wasn't like there was one set of lifestyle changes for your heart and a different one for your prostate or your diabetes or your telomeres. It was the same for all of them. And they included what we eat, in this case, a whole foods, low-fat, plant-based diet, moderate exercise in terms of walking 20 or 30 minutes a day, stress management techniques, including yoga and meditation, and more social support and love and intimacy.
How is telomere length a predictor of biological age? Would you characterize this finding as the fountain of youth?
No, it's not the fountain of youth, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. Until now, we thought that only telomeres could get shorter. Now we found that they can actually get longer. Other studies have looked at one moment in time and found, for example, that people who run a lot tend to have longer telomeres, or people who smoke cigarettes have shorter telomeres, or women who are chronic caregivers under chronic emotional stress of taking care of parents with Alzheimer's or kids with autism tend to have shorter telomeres. But they were just looking at one moment in time. In our study, we actually intervened. We gave people a lifestyle program. We had a control group to compare to, and we found that overall the telomeres got longer in the group that made these lifestyle changes and shorter in the group that did not.
The study found that the greater the lifestyle change participants made, the longer their telomeres became. How do you interpret those results?
We found that the more they changed, the better they got. And that's a finding that we found in all of our studies the last 36 years for other conditions. We found the more people changed their lifestyle, the more their heart disease reversed. For the first time, we were able to show that. We showed that the more people changed their lifestyle, the more it slowed or stopped or even reversed the progression of prostate cancer or changed their gene expression. So these findings are giving us more confidence that what we observed is real.
Why did you choose patients with prostate cancer? Are the findings relevant to other diseases?
I think they are relevant to other diseases because we were looking at their blood, not their prostate tissue. In an earlier study, we looked at their tissue to look at their changes in gene expression, and because these were men who needed to be biopsied anyway for reasons unrelated to the study, that was one way to do it. But even then, we were looking at the normal parts of the prostate, not those that had cancer. But for the telomere study, we were measuring the white blood cells in their bloodstream, and so I think these findings are relevant to a much larger group of people.
This is the first study to indicate that changes in lifestyle may beneficially affect the chromosomes that affect cell aging. Why has this been so hard to demonstrate until now?
Well, this is a very new technology. It was developed by Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine 3 years ago for discovering telomerase, which is an enzyme that lengthens and repairs telomeres. And so, because our studies were done in her laboratory, they have great credibility.
How does this study build on the research that you've conducted over the past 35 years?
You know, we tend to think of advances in medicine as being a new drug, a new laser, something really high-tech and expensive. And what we've done in our studies over the last 35, 36 years is to use these very high-tech, expensive, state-of-the-art scientific measures to prove how powerful these very simple and low-tech and low-cost interventions can be. Our bodies often have a remarkable capacity to begin healing themselves, and much more quickly than we had once realized, if we simply make the lifestyle changes that are really the primary determinants of our health and our well-being.
Now that we have these results, what are the next steps that you'd like to see be taken?
Well, this is a small pilot study, and most research begins with pilot studies that need to be confirmed in larger randomized controlled trials over time. And I'm hoping that our findings will inspire and motivate other investigators to do just that.
That's great. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Now we talked about socialization. I just can't, I want to reinforce this as much as possible. You need your friends, you need to have connections. So how can OLLI help you with that? And this is the final thing I'd like to push forward. The Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at George Mason University is a fantastic organization to get involved with. It's made up of people 55 and older who are wanting to have educational programming in their retirement years, taking lectures, learning new things, exploring their interests. And we offer a full catalog of courses which cover every topic under the sun. But the unique thing about our OLLI is that our entire catalog is designed, developed, and put on by volunteers. Our OLLI members get together around a table and decide what is the topic area we're interested in, what kind of research are we interested in, what kind of fun do we want to have? What kind of social events do we want to plan? Who can we get to give a great lecture? And they reach out to instructors at the university to recruit professors to come and give talks here at OLLI, give lectures. They also reach out to area subject matter experts who are very near here in DC. We have such a wealth of opportunity to reach out to think tanks like the Wilson Center or fantastic organizations that are just within our reach, which really help to make our program so robust and so excellent. And when you leave here today, we encourage you to pick up a catalog so that you can take a really good deep dive into all of the offerings that we have. And if you're online, you can find that through olli.gmu.edu. We also have lots of volunteer opportunities, not only supporting the organization, but external to the organization and at our parent organization, the George Mason University. Pictured here are Delegate Ken Plum. He's actually one of our founders, and the former president of the university, one of our chairs of the Department of Engineering, an OLLI member, and myself. And we have OLLI members who sit on practically every board at the university in every department. And so if you're interested in connecting with the university, OLLI is a great conduit to get involved. We also support students by furnishing scholarships and raising money for the departments at the university. This is this is a former provost of George Mason University, Dr. Peter Stearns, who is a regular lecturer here and one of our honorary members. We do, as I mentioned, outdoor activities. Here we are hiking in Great Falls. We have an OLLI players group, which if you're interested in theater, you can definitely sign up to be a part of that. We have a lot of fun here at OLLI. This is an image from Oligopoly, where we do a trivia class and everybody has a great time. There's actually prizes, which is really fun. We have the Tallwood Trio, which is a musical troupe, which you could start your own here. You could start your own musical group and just have a lot of fun, and they will tour around and do things. Of course, we have our lectures. We do other kinds of excursions and travel and parties, lots of social opportunities, lots of good fun here at OLLI. So I encourage you to learn about us. If you're online and remote, you can join us via Zoom. Almost all of our lectures are on Zoom. We also do social stuff on Zoom, lots of parties. We're going to be doing Jeopardy and Name That Tune and a few other really fun things just to have some fun. But we are recording most of our lectures, and we have a very thorough library of past recordings for the last several years since we pivoted to the whole Zoom environment. So lots of in-person, lots of online, lots of socials, lots of ways to connect with people and enjoy your retirement and to seek, reap the benefits of this program so that you can do all the things we talked about, the science-based things that we talked about today. So thank you all so much. This has been a joy to be with you today. Thank you.